With Persona's 25th anniversary approaching this September, there's been a lot of speculation as to what we can expect Atlus to announce around this point. Some people have predicted that maybe there'll be an announcement of the new Persona spin-off game because Atlus had recently renewed the domain P5U, and there have been some unsourced rumors starting around about Persona 4 Arena getting a remaster for modern consoles, which is, well, that's a different topic for a different video. What I'm really here to talk about today is specifically Persona 3 and what's expected to be shown for this anniversary. A remake of P3 is so heavily requested to the point where it was even trending on Twitter last year. But I think what's really interesting about Persona 3 is that because of its ambitious design philosophy, it wouldn't be as easy as it was porting games like SMT Nocturne. And because of this, one could even make the argument that Persona 3 could even use a rehaul to its entire system. And I'm not talking like cleaning up its graphics or fixing up the audio and then, just slap it into a modern port. I'm talking a full-on remake of Persona 3 using the Persona 5 engine. So that begs the question, should Atlus bring Persona 3 to modern consoles? Does Persona 3 need a remake of some kind? And if so, which direction should Atlus take? An HD remaster or a remake? Now, to analyze and answer all these questions, we'll need to compare the difference between the two, as some people have made the mistake that they're not too different or that they're basically the same thing. I personally look at it like this. Remasters are marketed towards old fans. Remakes are to cater to new fans. So that being said, what can we expect from Atlus if they made an HD remaster versus a full remake? Well, this cannot be discussed at a more perfect time because we can look at Nocturne HD and expect Persona 3 to take a similar approach. When it comes to remasters, we can expect the visuals to be cleaned up or maybe overhauled completely. Maybe depending on the company, they could consider adding new voice lines or just revoicing the entire game completely. The goal of remasters is to keep the entire original vision of the game intact. And what makes HD remasters especially appealing is that they are, well, the easiest between the two to make. However, there's kind of a huge flaw with this in that for Persona 3, the game's original version, it doesn't allow you to control party members outside of the protagonist. There was an interview with Atlus regarding Persona 3 and the reason why this is the case. And it's because they wanted to make it thematic where all the characters are separate people and the only way to control them was by communicating with them as their leader. In other words, they were trying to make the party members feel more like actual individual people with full control over their own actions, which is a neat idea and concept, but this heavily backfires as the AI that controls the team is not great. And Persona 3's unique design philosophy especially backfires in that it turns away a lot of the newcomers who are looking to get into the game. Based on my own personal experience, I feel like turn-based games are already considered to be kind of niche, and so this design philosophy doubly backfires because of that. In the PSP version of Persona 3, they ended up fixing this issue by letting you control your own party members like, well, any JRPG would. So that being said, does that mean Persona 3 HD Remaster would implement this too? That's kind of hard to answer because it really just depends on how much work Atlus would put into a remaster of this game. When it comes to the remastered approach, we can expect that the original game we remember is exactly what we're getting. And this means we might get the exact Persona 3 we all remember. And by that, I mean the exact gameplay P3 FES had. Which is fine because honestly I think a lot of the old fans of Persona 3 would be happy with that. This approach is meant to cater to old fans and the nostalgia behind Persona 3. However, the other reboot method technically has more potential to surpass the original game. That's right, what I'm talking is a complete remake. There's so much potential when it comes to remaking a game, like I mentioned before. Remakes, in my opinion, are catering to new audiences, which means that we can expect Atlus to make a ton of changes to the game. New graphical overhaul, new music, gameplay improvements, potentially new story updates. This honestly sounds so appealing already that some of you might be wondering, how could this even be discussed? Wouldn't a remake just be better in just about every way? Well, here's the thing that most people might have forgotten to consider. If Persona 3 got remade, the original team that made Persona 3, 4, 5 would not be making it. Hoshino, the director, the artist Soejima, the composer Meguro, they've all stepped away from Persona to work on a new fantasy JRPG, which is currently being called Project Re Fantasy. And well, there's a lot more to say on the subject regarding where the Persona franchise is headed, but what I can say is if Atlus decided to remake Persona 3, it wouldn't be the same team. And at that point, would that be the remake fans would want for the game? It probably would still use the same art style we're used to, it'd probably still use the same music. However, without the same director, I'm not even sure if it would really feel the same. Is it even Persona 3 at that point? I know I mentioned that remakes are generally to cater towards new fans, but I've seen games out there that were able to make both sides happy. Let's take a look at two games. Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake. Two games from one of Capcom's most beloved series. RE2 Remake was made in-house by Capcom themselves, and that game might be one of the most beloved of the entire franchise. And then there's RE3 Remake that was not actually made in-house by Capcom, and a lot of people agree that it misses the same charm and magic that the original RE3 had. Now, remakes have so much more potential, and a Persona 3 remake could potentially surpass the original in quality, but without its original director, it could easily lose out on a lot of the original vision that made Persona 3 so special. So with all this in mind, does Persona 3 need a remake? Well, talking about this and comparing the two made me realize that Persona is going through another huge transition phase just like it did in the past. Persona 1 and Persona 2 are drastically different style of games compared to Persona 3, 4, and 5. And that's because of this big shift they had in the development team. And so because Persona 3 through 5's development team has now stepped away from making Persona games, I personally would rather that their new successor team just focus on developing Persona 6. That isn't to say that new directors aren't capable of making amazing remakes. RE2 Remake wasn't even made by Hideki Kamiya, the original director. However, to do a Persona 3 remake justice, there's so much that's likely to change that at that point, I personally think it's just better for that new team to focus their efforts on brand new games. And instead, I think it would just be better for Atlus to give us an HD remaster that this incredible game deserves. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you personally want for Persona 3, an HD remaster or a remake, and if you were to pick between the two, what would be the reason? I think there's a lot more I can say on this subject regarding remasters versus remakes, but I'll save that for a future video. And also, if you made it this far, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.